In the Grand Hall of Mirrors, King Tamor found himself trapped in a labyrinth of glass and stone, each reflection mocking his desperation. Around him, grotesque figures twisted and writhed, snarling creatures born of nightmares, yet all bearing his own face. They taunted him, whispering secrets and lies, playing tricks on his mind. And then he saw her. Queen Arshina, elegant, regal, sat on a raised dais like a queen of the underworld. Her eyes shone brightly, no longer warm and inviting, but cold and hard, like polished gemstones. She held a goblet aloft, the same goblet from the previous night. From his prison of mirrors, Timur could only watch. The queen approached the edge of the dais. Her voice echoed through the hall, strong and clear, devoid of warmth or kindness. "Do you recognize me, Timo?" she asked, her tone laced with disdain. He wanted to answer, to break free from the glass, but he couldn't. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Each attempt to speak sent shivers down his spine. The queen took a slow sip from the goblet, savoring the moment. "How does it feel?" she asked sweetly, to be trapped, to be silenced. Timur wanted to scream, to tear at the mirrors, but he was frozen, held captive by fear and fascination. He watched as she walked closer, her face a mask of cruel amusement. "This is your doing," he finally managed to say, his voice hoarse and strained. "What are you?" The queen threw back her head and laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "I am who I am," she said, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "And soon, so will you." With a flick of her wrist, she cast a drop of liquid from the goblet onto the ground before him. It hit the mirror, and in an instant the glass shattered, freeing him from his prison. He stumbled forward, desperate to escape, but the queen raised a hand, and he froze. "Don't touch me," he gasped, recoiling in horror. But she was already there, her fingers cold and clammy on his skin. Her touch sent a jolt through him, and he cried out. The queen leaned close, her breath cold and stale on his neck. Soon, she whispered, "You will be like me." With that, she vanished. And Tamir collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by a sudden wave of nausea and weakness. He knew he had to get out of that place to seek help, but his limbs felt heavy, his vision blurred. He tried to call out, but no sound escaped his lips. As darkness closed in, he understood the full extent of his predicament. The queen had cursed him, and the curse was taking hold. Days turned into nights, and Timur found himself in a horrifying nightmare. His body contorted, his skin burned, and visions of fire and ice flooded his mind. He clawed at his flesh, trying to tear away the agony, but nothing helped. In his delirium, he remembered the queen's words, "You will be like me," and terror gripped him. What did she mean? What was happening to him? Meanwhile, across the kingdom, whispers arose of the king's strange behavior. At first, there were rumors of a mysterious illness, but soon talk turned to sorcery and curses. Some blamed the queen, but others pointed fingers at the king's advisors. Amidst the chaos, one man worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. The man who had uncovered the plot against Tamur, Fakrudin, the spy. Now, driven by loyalty and concern for his king, he searched day and night for a solution to the mystery. He scoured ancient texts, consulted wise women, and followed every lead, desperate to find a way to help his king. But the deeper he delved, the more complex the puzzle became. Each new piece of information raised more questions than it answered, and time was running out. Tamur was fading away, consumed by the curse. But Fakrudin was not alone in his quest. Sarah, the young palace maid, also sought to help. She had witnessed the queen's dark side firsthand and regretted her silence. Now she wanted to make amends. So she joined Fakrudin, offering her knowledge of the palace and the queen as they worked together. Deep in the royal library, Fakrudin stumbled upon an ancient scroll, its words faded but powerful. The more he read, the more his eyes widened in realization. He had found a clue, a possible way to break the curse. According to the scroll, the queen's power lay in her bloodline, passed down from mother to daughter for generations. This lineage traced back to a mythical queen, the first to wield this ancient magic. But the scroll also spoke of a way to break the curse, a ritual that could sever the queen's connection to her bloodline and strip her of her powers. However, the ritual was dangerous, requiring a powerful artifact and a willingness to sacrifice. With this newfound knowledge, Fakhruddin and Sarah devised a plan. Sarah would infiltrate the queen's chambers and steal a vial of her blood, a key ingredient for the ritual. Meanwhile, Fakhruddin would search for the artifact, a silver amulet said to hold the power to bind and control ancient magic. The plan was fraught with danger, but they had no choice. Sarah successfully infiltrated the queen's chambers and stole a vial of blood. Gao! But as she slipped away unnoticed, she realized the gravity of her actions. She had betrayed the queen's trust, stolen from her own kind. Fear gnawed at her, but she pushed on, driven by her desire to help her king and undo the curse. Fakhruddin, meanwhile, faced his own challenges. The amulet lay hidden in a secret chamber beneath the palace, guarded by traps and illusions. But he persevered, overcoming each obstacle, his determination fueled by his unwavering loyalty to his king. At last, they met in the dead of night, two unlikely heroes, united by a common purpose. The air crackled with anticipation as they prepared for the ritual. Fakhruddin placed the amulet around Sarah's neck, its silver surface cold against her skin. Then she stepped forward, holding the vial of blood aloft. The scroll's instructions echoed in her ears. With a deep breath, she began the chant, her voice surprisingly steady despite her pounding heart. As the words left her lips, the amulet glowed with an ethereal light, bathing the room in an otherworldly glow. The queen's blood in the vial began to swirl, tendrils of power reaching toward Sarah. She continued the chant, her voice growing in strength. Suddenly the queen appeared in the doorway, her eyes blazing with anger and betrayal. "Sarah," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "So you have chosen this path?" Sarah met her gaze, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. "For the good of the kingdom," she replied, "for the king." The queen's face twisted with rage, and she lunged at Sarah, tendrils of dark energy lashing out. But the amulet flared, repelling the queen's attack. The queen snarled, her eyes burning with hatred and disbelief. She had not anticipated this. Her own magic turned against her. Realizing the jig was up, the queen fled, disappearing into the shadows. With the queen gone, the immediate danger over, Fakhruddin removed the amulet from Sarah's neck. The room was silent, the magical glow fading. Sarah collapsed to her knees, drained but resolute. She had done what she had to do. She waited for the ritual to take hold, for the curse on her king to be lifted. The weight of the queen's betrayal and the hope for her king's recovery settled upon her. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The queen was defeated, but not destroyed. She would likely regroup, plotting her revenge, seeking allies. The kingdom was in a precarious balance. News of the king's condition spread like wildfire, shaking the foundations of the kingdom. Loyal subjects rallied, pouring into the capital, demanding justice and aid for their king. The streets echoed with their cries, and the palace walls trembled with their fervor. The weight of their devotion pressed down on Fakhruddin and Sarah, urging them to act swiftly. They knew that the fate of the kingdom, perhaps the very balance of power in the land, hung in the balance. The time for planning and preparation was over. It was time for action. This is an episode with a special guest. King Tamor stared at the goblet on the table. The golden rim shimmered in the candlelight, tempting and terrifying at the same time. He could feel its power calling to him, whispering the secrets it held. King Timur cleared his throat, his gaze unwavering. Across from him, Queen Arshina sat serenely, her fingers lightly tapping the armrest. In the flickering candlelight, her silhouette seemed to dance with shadows, making her look both alluring and menacing. She had summoned him here, to this private chamber, to reveal a secret that had been poisoning her nights. But now, faced with the goblet on the table, he realized that truth sometimes comes at a terrible cost. "You asked for the truth, my king," she said, her voice as steady as the beat of a war drum. "But truth has a price." She did not reach out to touch him, nor did she invite him to sit. Her eyes, usually sparkling with life, were now pools of fathomless depths. "What is this poison?" he asked again, his tone softer now. It had been weeks since Arshina had first hinted at the dark secret hidden within the goblet. At first, her refusal to drink it had worried him, her reasons vague, her fears unspoken. But when he had pressed for answers, she had simply smiled mysteriously and changed the subject. No. However, The air in the room had grown heavy with unspoken truths. Why drink it? Every night. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stood up, walked to the window, and gazed out at the darkened courtyard. There was a long silence, broken only by the crackling of the hearth. She finally turned back, her eyes held a distant sorrow. "My mother drank it," she began, her voice trailing off as if she were tasting the words, her mother before her, and the women before them. Timur felt a chill crawl up his spine. This was more than a mere poison, he sensed, more than a nightly ritual. It was a legacy, a chain binding past and present in a silent, unseen pact. "It's not just poison," she whispered, turning away again as if the very sight of the goblet was painful. "It's history, it's memory, it's the only way we remember who we are." Timur frowned. "What do you mean?" She turned then, and in the flickering candlelight, he saw a fierce determination set her jaw. "The goblet doesn't just hold poison, it holds visions. Pieces of the past. Each sip brings back what was taken from us, our pain, our fury, our rightful vengeance." With each word, Arshana's anguish seemed to grow, her voice echoing with the torment of generations past. She stepped closer, the goblet held out between them, its golden rim reflecting the firelight like a beacon of untold stories. "My ancestors were rulers too," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "long before your bloodline rose to power. But they were betrayed. My great-grandmother, Queen Naima, was poisoned by her own husband, king drunk on greed. She died slowly, painfully. But before her death, she brewed a poison of her own one that would not kill, but awaken. A curse wrapped in tradition." Timur stared at her, his mind reeling. Was this the secret that haunted Arshana's nights? A curse that poisoned not just the body, but the soul. "And you follow that tradition?" he asked, incredulous. "I live it," she whispered, her eyes blazing with a sudden fire. She lifted the goblet and extended it toward him again. "Drink. You must see the past to understand me." The time stood still. All sounds seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in the silent chamber. In that single moment, Timur saw the weight of his marriage, of his kingdom, reflected in the depths of Arshana's eyes. He hesitated, torn between the duty to his people and the desire to shield his queen from harm. But somewhere deep within him, curiosity, perhaps even love, overpowered fear. He reached out, his fingers brushing against the cool surface of the glass. As his thumb caressed the intricate golden design, memories not his own flooded his mind. Images of betrayal, sorrow, and vengeance swirled within him, weaving a tapestry of heartache so intense it felt like his own. Then he brought the goblet to his lips and drank. In that instant, the world around him exploded in a kaleidoscope of color and emotion. The taste, bitter and metallic, sent a jolt through him, as if his veins were being washed with liquid fire. The moment that liquid touched his tongue, the world around him began to blur. The chamber melted into smoke, the candles flickered out, and the floor beneath his feet gave way. Suddenly, he was no longer in the palace. He stood in a battlefield, blood-stained and burning. Soldiers screamed, women wept. And in the distance he saw a queen dressed in gold, her hands bound, her lips trembling. She looked just like Arshana, but older, wiser, broken. The king stood beside her, a cruel smirk on his face. "She plotted against me," the king said aloud to a crowd. "She must be punished." "No," the queen cried. "I was loyal, you were the traitor." Then came the poison, forced into her mouth. She fell, her body convulsed. Her crown slipped to the ground. Timur felt the pain as if it were his own, the agony of a poisoned heart, the despair of a broken crown. The vision shifted. He saw a little girl hiding behind velvet curtains watching her mother die, her small fists clenched, her eyes filled with rage. That girl was Arshana, he realized, her mother's pain becoming her own. He felt the echoes of their despair, their anger, and their sorrow. Then, as abruptly as it began, the vision faded. The sounds of battle receded, replaced by the crackle of the fire in the great hall. The scent of blood and smoke vanished, replaced by the sweet fragrance of jasmine. He was back in the room. Arshana stood over him. Her face was etched with concern. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked softly. He nodded, breathless. "I saw everything." Arshana waited patiently, her gaze unwavering, until Timur found his voice. "So this marriage," he began, his voice echoing with the weight of the revelation, "this alliance, was it always a lie?" "Not a lie," she said, her voice steady, but a test. "I wanted to see if peace was possible, but you never asked questions, never looked deeper. You saw my crown, but not my scars." The weight of her words settled upon him like a shroud. He had been so focused on the glory of the union, the strategic alliance, that he had overlooked the silent suffering of his queen. Her pain became his, her story his burden. "So," he whispered, searching for a way forward, "what happens now?" Arshina turned away, her shoulders stiff with unspoken grief. "I don't want war, Timur," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I can't forget. I won't let our child forget either." He flinched, surprise jolting him. "Child?" She nodded, a ghost of a smile touching her lips. "I am with child. And like me, they will drink from the goblet. They will remember. One day, they will decide whether peace deserves to last." Arshina walked to a hidden drawer, retrieved a second goblet, empty, clean, and gleaming. "You must choose," she said, extending it toward him. "Drink again, and let the poison become part of you. Or walk away, and let the past die without you." Tears streamed down Asheron's face as she spoke, her voice echoing the torment of generations past. In that moment, Timur understood that he wasn't just facing a queen, but a vessel of history. A vessel filled with the agony of her ancestors, the bitterness of their betrayal, and the thirst for justice that had echoed through the ages. He stared at the second goblet. His hands trembled. Should he embrace the poison, become a part of her lineage, shoulder the burden of her past along with her? Or should he turn away, leaving her to navigate the treacherous waters of her history alone? The decision hung in the air, heavy and inescapable. Time seemed to stop. Outside, the night deepened, the silence of the courtyard pressing against the chamber walls. Finally, Timur spoke, his voice hoarse with emotion. "You want me to carry the curse with you?" "No," she whispered, her voice catching. "I want you to carry the truth. In a world where love stories are as old as time, there is always something special about a tale that begins with the word once upon a time. And guess what, dear viewer? Today's episode is just such a story. A legend that begins with the words once upon a time is one of the most terrifying legends ever. It tells of a curse as old as the monarchy itself. We invite you to come closer and listen intently, because this is a tale that has been whispered through generations. The legend goes that in the golden age of a prosperous kingdom, there lived a beautiful and benevolent queen. Her name was Aisha, and her reign was marked by peace and prosperity. But like the fleeting nature of all things, her time on the throne came to an abrupt end when a power-hungry usurper poisoned her, plunging the kingdom into turmoil. As the queen lay dying, she uttered a prophecy that echoed through the ages. She proclaimed that every queen who sat on the throne after her would be forced to drink from a goblet of poison, each night to safeguard themselves from those who coveted the crown. This chilling prophecy set in motion a chain of events that would shape the destiny of the kingdom for years to come. Now let's shift our focus to another pivotal character in this narrative, a young and ambitious prince named Timur. He was the heir to the throne, and his path to power was fraught with challenges. When Timur ascended to the throne, he found himself entangled in a web of deceit and danger. His every move was shadowed by the specter of betrayal, reminding him of the precarious nature of his position. But amidst these turbulent times, Timur's gaze turned towards Arshina, a captive princess whose lineage traced back to the very first queen who had fallen victim to the poison. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and an instant connection sparked between them. Amidst the intrigue and peril, a love story began to unfold. Defying the odds and threatening to rewrite the kingdom's fate, Timur fought valiantly against those who sought to undermine his reign, determined to secure a better future for himself and his people. However, an even greater challenge awaited him in the form of the legendary Goblet of Poison. Each night, tradition dictated that the king's consort must partake in the bitter draught, ensuring their loyalty and safety from potential rivals. As the time came for Arshina to take the poison, she found herself torn between her love for Timur and her duty to uphold the ancient customs. The weight of the goblet seemed heavier than it should, and with each drop, she descended deeper into a world of pain and darkness. Yet amid this turmoil, a glimmer of hope emerged. Legend spoke of a way to break the curse, a single drop of blood from a descendant of the original poisoned queen, meant to purify the goblet and end its reign of terror. But finding such a descendant seemed like a near impossible task. Determined to free Arshina from this harrowing ritual, Tamor embarked on a perilous quest. He braved treacherous landscapes and faced mythical creatures in search of the legendary descendant. His journey took him through enchanted forests and across raging seas, all in the pursuit of breaking the curse that haunted his beloved Arshina. With each passing day, the urgency of his quest grew. Arshina's health deteriorated, and the thought of losing her fueled his determination. Finally, after months of arduous searching, Tamor stumbled upon an ancient hermit rumored to possess vast knowledge of the kingdom's history. The hermit listened intently to Tamor's tale, and when he learned of the curse, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. He revealed that he was, in fact, a descendant of the very first queen who had succumbed to the poison. Moved by Tamor's noble quest, the hermit offered his aid, providing him with a single drop of his blood to purify the goblet. Hope surged through Tamor as he raced back to the kingdom, clutching the precious vial containing the blood of a descendant. As he approached the castle, he saw a dark figure standing at the top of the highest tower, silhouetted against the moonlit sky. It was Arshina, and her ethereal beauty seemed to glow in the darkness. Without hesitation, Tamor climbed the tower, his heart pounding in his chest. When he finally reached Arshina, he found her with the goblet in her hands, ready to take the fatal draught. With trembling hands, he stopped her and explained his discovery. Tears streamed down Arshina's face as she realized that she had been carrying the burden of the curse for far too long. Together, they made their way to the royal chamber where the goblet was kept. The sight of the ornate vessel filled them with a mix of trepidation and anticipation. With the vial in hand, Tamor prepared to break the curse once and for all. The moment he touched the goblet with the blood, a blinding light filled the room. The very foundations of the castle trembled as if in celebration. When the light subsided, the goblet lay before them, no longer a symbol of pain and suffering, but a gleaming testament to their love and courage. The curse had been broken, and a new era of hope dawned upon the kingdom. From that day forward, the poison that had plagued the kingdom for generations was purged from their lives. No longer did the queens have to endure the bitter draught, and the shadow of fear that had loomed over the kingdom dissipated. Instead, a sense of renewal and optimism swept through the land. As the news of the broken curse spread, people from all corners of the kingdom came to witness the transformation of the goblet. They marveled at the very vessel that had once been a source of torment, now a symbol of freedom and resilience. Arshina and Tamor's love story became a beacon of hope, reminding the people that even in the darkest of times, love and courage can prevail. Their names were whispered with reverence as they had not only liberated themselves, but also paved the way for a brighter future for generations to come. However, there were some among the kingdom who resented the breaking of the curse. Those who had grown accustomed to the power and control that came with the goblet saw their influence slipping away. They plotted in the shadows, seeking to restore the curse and keep the kingdom under their thumb. Unaware of the brewing turmoil, Arshina and Tamor worked tirelessly to usher in a new era of prosperity and justice. They enacted reforms that had long been needed, and their reign was marked by fairness and compassion. But as time went on, the resentment of their enemies grew, and they hatched a plan to bring the curse back. They kidnapped a young prince from a neighboring kingdom, hoping to use him as a pawn to manipulate Arshina and Tamor. The couple were devastated to learn of the kidnapping, and they immediately set out to rescue the prince. Their journey took them deep into enemy territory, where they faced perilous trials that tested their strength and determination. Through it all, their love for each other and their unwavering commitment to justice guided them forward. Finally, after a series of daring escapades, they managed to rescue the prince and bring him back to safety. The kingdom erupted in joy upon their return, and the people celebrated their bravery and compassion. In the aftermath of their victory, Arshina and Tamor's bond grew even stronger. They realized that their love was not merely a romantic connection, but a force that could conquer even the darkest of curses. They continued to rule wisely and justly, leaving a legacy that inspired awe and admiration. As the years passed, the memory of their love and courage became a part of the kingdom's folklore, reminding the people that true love and determination could overcome any obstacle. And so the tale of Arshina and Tamor became a legend, a testament to the power of love and the triumph of good over evil. It was a story that echoed through the ages, inspiring hope and wonder in the hearts of all who heard it. For more enchanting tales and captivating love stories, make sure to subscribe. Let us know in the comments which legend or myth you would like to hear next. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.